What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with the one and only Mark Tremonti. Thanks for being here today, man. It's great to have you here.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. Happy album release day. We got Marching in Time out. Congratulations on another great album. Was the intention of this album to just pick up where you left off after A Dying Machine, or given the state of the world lately, that maybe you took a little bit of a different approach to this album?
It's kind of just picking up where I left off of the Walk the Sky record. Whenever I finish an album, I hit the ground running with the next one. So it's I wasn't planning on doing another concept record like A Dying Machine with this one. Each song tells its own story, and just kind of let it happen naturally. But I had much more time on this record than any other Tremonti record to put together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do got to ask this before I forget, but next year is going to be the 10-year anniversary of the debut Tremonti album, All I Was. You plan on maybe doing a little celebration with that and coinciding with Marching in Time?
That'd be awesome. I didn't know that, so I'll have to start planning for something. I had no idea it was a 10-year. That's great.
Yeah,
it's crazy how much time's gone by since we started that.
Yep, just to make you feel old, I was just graduating high school when the first Tremonti album came out. So,
wow, I already feel old.
I have a bad habit of doing that. But you mentioned that sometimes like there's different stories and different concepts that influence a Tremonti song. You mentioned like A Dying Machine was sort of like a concept album, and Marching in Time, every song sort of tells its own story. Do you like think of a story before you pick up the guitar and start writing it, and maybe that could help influence the sound in a way, or do you need music before you kind of have an idea of what the song's about?
Yeah, usually when I'm starting to write a song, I'll spit words out. And it'll just kind of come from somewhere deep down in my psyche. I don't know where they come from. So usually it's a couple key phrases that I spit out that form the foundation of the song. Like on the title track of this record, I just said, "So many lives marching in time." What could that mean? It came out, it fits the melody, it sings well, and then I try to go down the rabbit hole with it and create a story from it. So it comes from. It comes from just being experimental with throwing words around.
Yeah, and I love that title, Marching in Time, because I feel like it is both very literal, like, I think it is representative of how we as people are marching through, especially dire times like now, but I think it also has like a metaphorical aspect behind it as well. What is this time we're marching through? Is it through a bad day? Is it through a period? Do you like to leave the music open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe like convey a certain message to the listeners?
I definitely open to interpretation, because a lot of people have way different views of the song than I do, and if it makes them happy, I want them to keep that view. Like one example, reason why I don't like to tell people exactly what they're like, because a song like "If Not For You," I played it for some friends, and somebody was like, "Oh, it's such a great song about really liking and somebody and really like supporting someone." And I said, well, it's really not about that. It's almost like a stalker story about somebody who's too obsessed with somebody, and they, it's not a positive thing. So I don't like to ruin somebody's vibe by ruining what their vision in their head was, because that's happened to me before growing up. It's like I'd hear a song for 30 years and all of a sudden hear a word that I didn't hear before. I'm like, I never knew it was about that. Damn.
Yeah, it's like such a blessing, but also such a curse at the same time. I can't tell you how just one word is all it could take to alter the meaning of everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In order to get like that inspiration, to get these ideas, you mentioned ideas sort of just come out of your head. I'd imagine like inspiration sometimes strikes at like the most inconvenient times, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Be in the shower, be in bed. There's been a lot of times where I'm in bed and I'll have to get up out of bed and go into my studio and record something, or else I'll forget it. There's been a lot of times where I'm having a dream, and there's this great song going on in the dream, and most of the time you wake up and you forget it, and it just drives you absolutely nuts, because it's crazy how your brain works. Is how did that song that doesn't exist come into your head and be so defined and so done and so polished and so ready to go in a moment, in just in a fraction of a second? So I have remembered a couple dream ideas over the years, but they're few and far between.
Yeah, dreaming about music is like so torturous too. I was having a lucid dream one time where like I was playing a show, and then like I woke up in the middle of the night and I had to use the restroom, and I said to like the drummer, "Yo, take a drum solo. I got to use the restroom." I woke up, used the restroom, went back to sleep, and right when I drifted off, he was just finishing the drum solo, and I was like, "Thank you."
Wow, that's crazy to be able to continue that dream after waking up.
Yeah, that was a night of sheer luck. And and you people always say the shower is like such a great source of inspiration. They need to make like waterproof like compressors and amps and stuff so people can make like a makeshift studio in their shower.
I think anytime you've got time to just think to yourself, you're not busy tackling your daily routine, and you spend 20 minutes in the shower doing your thing, or you're driving your car and you don't have the radio on. Those are great writing times.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's ironic too because a band is a collaborative effort, but it almost seems like artists are always able to cultivate ideas the best when they're more alone.
I have to be alone. Yeah, it's everybody's always, like Ryan, or drummer on this record. He's like, "Hey man, we got to get together and jam." Like, when's the last time you actually sat down with the band to write songs? I'm like, dude, I haven't done that since maybe the first Creed record. It's just not something I do. I like to write by myself. I like to get in my own little world. I like to be able to make mistakes. I like to be able to sing I sing in my falsetto when I'm writing vocal melodies, which is kind of embarrassing to do in front of people. Because if you're going to sing for 8 hours straight when you're writing, you can't sing in your full voice. You'll blow your voice out. So I sing like this, when I'm writing. So there's only a handful of people in the world that I feel comfortable with writing in front of, until I started doing guitar clinics, teaching people how I write. I just tell people, we're in the trust tree right now. I'm going to do things that might not sound good, because you got to sound bad before you sound good sometimes when you're a writer. Not everything you spit out is going to be Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah.
So you got to be in the trust tree and realize that you got to make mistakes. You got to accept failure to be able to accept something to be completed in the long run.
Yeah, and as somebody who worked in a guitar store for 10 years, I could go the rest of my life without hearing Stairway to Heaven. So that's
Oh yeah.
it's what I call the one of the five forbidden S's: Stairway to Heaven, Sweet Child of Mine, Smells Like Teen Spirit, Sweet Home Alabama, and Smoke on the Water. Those are the five forbidden S's of rock.
There you go.
So, yeah, and when you hear it a half a step out of tune, it makes you dislike the whole song
Oh yeah.
together.
I worked in a car shop for about a month. It was there's a lot of notes going on, it's crazy in there. But I used to, when I was a kid practicing the guitar, I used to practice licks and prepare for my guitar store visits, so I shred them in the guitar store.
Okay. Well, you
So
didn't
that
have
was
Well, you didn't have to deal with the wrath of the Boss Metal Zone pedal, right? I mean, I love the sound that makes sometimes, but you have that young metalhead kid who just ups the distortion to a T,
Oh yeah.
and like then they're playing like a song that's like meant to have a little more reverb on it, and then oh my god, it's like somebody made like an actual like parody video of somebody with like a Metal Zone pedal, and they were like threatening the guitar store and holding it hostage with it. They used it to rob the guitar store.
In my day, it was the Arion, I think it's pronounced, Metal Master.
Oh, really?
That was the pedal. Oops, metal, speed metal pedal. I actually brought that to some of my first band rehearsals, and everybody hated it, but I love it.
Fair enough. When it comes to like being such a prolific artist, between Tremonti and Alter Bridge and Creed, is it like a different mind frame? Was the creative process always different, or is there a usual method behind the madness that applied to every project that you've played with?
Well, the organizing is the only thing that stays consistent. I try to get inspiration from as many different avenues as I can. It's like last night I had a date. Yesterday I had a date to write, and I didn't bring my guitar to the hotel room because I wanted to just get on my laptop, pull out an Omnisphere program, do some synth stuff without a keyboard, just on my keys, just to see how creative I could be doing it that way. Because if you just sit down with your guitar every single day, no drum loops, nothing going on, and you're just using your imagination every day, you're gonna at some point, start doing similar ideas all the time. That's why I've taken my guitar and tuned it so many different ways. Every time I do a new tuning, it's like a whole new instrument for me. Every time I put down the guitar and get a keyboard, and buy some new program to do it, it sounds different. It's cool for me. Or dive into anything different, read a book, watch a movie, watch something else that inspires something different. I try to not do the same thing every time.
Yeah, well, I've always said one of my favorite quotes is "Art comes out of art," and it's amazing to see on just how like a painting could influence a song or a movie could influence a song. I mean, think about how
Yeah.
many great concept albums we've had thanks to literature. It's really incredible on how
Oh, yeah.
like different mediums accommodate each other.
Yeah, they set moods, and then you follow that mood. You got that mood in your head. You want to hear it with your ears. Yeah, I think music is just the most magical thing out there. It's the most intangible thing that means the most to most people.
Absolutely, and it's a necessity at this point. Like I would rather leave my house without my keys than without my headphones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Especially living in New York City. But
Yeah,
yeah, taking the subway every day, you need some death metal for the morning commute.
absolutely.
Yep. And do you have a theory? Because you also teach and you are very, you do all these clinics. Do you have a theoretical background that you apply to your songwriting? Like, are you thinking about scale and form and key? Or, it's rock and roll. There's a lot of rule breaking everywhere. So do you just tend to put that behind you when you songwrite?
I try to break as many rules as I can when I write songs. I remember sitting down with Michelangelo Badio, is a buddy of mine, incredible guitar player, and he's like, Mark, if you really thought theoretically behind what you're doing here, it makes almost no sense, which is great. I'm like, thanks, and I think it's thanks. I try to I never write within any kind of parameters. Again, that's why I like alternate tunings. All your chord voicings, all your scales, all your theories out the window when you change the relative pitch of all your strings. Unless you're an absolute genius and you memorize theory in every single tuning, which has got to be impossible. Nothing's impossible, but I like to take technique and theory and all those things and throw them in the garbage when it comes to songwriting. Songwriting's got to be complete emotion and complete. I like to go back to when I was a kid and I knew nothing about the guitar, but I knew what I wanted to hear in my head, and I tried to make that work with my fingers, and I still do that as a writer.
Do you want to know a cool little trick my guitar teacher said, though, to remember those scale modes like Ionian, Phrygian, Dorian? It's just remember the saying, I don't particularly like midgets attacking ladies. That's how he had me remember.
Wow. There you go.
That's how I remembered every progression.
There you go. That's awesome.
Yep. And
I won't forget.
I don't think anybody will. But it's cool to like know like that sort of theoretical. I was interviewing Tardia from Nightwish and her solo work, and like she has the full classical theoretical, but like if it's good to know it, but you don't want to be enslaved by it at the same time. I think theory is best to just really communicate with other musicians about music.
Yeah. Yeah, and when it comes down to when I've got the song written and it's time to write the guitar solo, then I'll pull out the theory. Then I'll say, all right, this needs to be in the harmonic minor, it needs to be in whatever. I'll know what to do when it comes to the solo stuff. But when it comes to the writing and the initial creation of it, I like it to be this new thing that hasn't been done a million times. I don't want it to just sound like a pentatonic riff over and over, or I want it to be. That's why I like writing guitar solos and alternate tunings, because you can take advantage of the open strings a lot. You can get into different shapes and ideas that you would never do in standard tuning. So it's always going to sound, it's that foot in the door of sounding different immediately instead of having to really work at it.
And I'd imagine too, it also has to fit the vocalist you're playing with, because Scott's voice is very different from Miles, which is different from like yours in a way. Like I'd imagine that like maybe it has to accommodate to the singer as well, right? Or is that I could be wrong?
Well, I mean, when it comes to writing stuff, I know what would fit in each project best. So it's well, I don't know, but it's kind of just an intuition. A lot of times if I write something musically that I absolutely love the part and I love the melody, but when I sing it, it doesn't come across as good as I imagine it. That's when I hand it over to Miles, because I know he's going to kill it.
Yeah, definitely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time. Happy record release day and congrats again. Is there anything else you'd like to promote for this record cycle? Obviously, because of this virus that shall not be named. Obviously, touring is still kind of up in the air in some aspects. I know you just did a kick-ass tour with Seven Dust, but we'll be seeing you on the road quite a bit, right? Please bring this to New York City.
Oh yeah, we're touring all throughout the end of this year in the States, and then we go to Europe in January and February, and then we hit all the big summer festivals. So we'll be touring until next fall with this album, and then Ultra Bridge will come back out next winter.
I never thought I would hear about a band touring in Europe in January because I'm so used to NAMM being around that time. That has to be a
Oh
first
yeah,
time in a while, right?
yeah. It's but Europe is really the the biggest market for this band. They're the fan base over there is just awesome.
Yeah.
It's I think rock and roll in the States has kind of gone through a tough phase. It's not one of the main genres of music here, obviously. But you go to Europe, you still have those kids going to high school putting posters on their walls like we used to.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like that anymore in the United States as much.
Yeah.
But Europe is carrying the torch, man. They're keeping rock healthy.
Yeah. And they're playing like Morbid Angel in like department stores. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, and well, not just Europe, but South America, Russia, Indonesia. It seems like rock and roll is the toughest right now in the States for some reason, where it was the biggest at one point. So I think we need that one scary, reckless, awesome, interesting rock band to come back out that gets everybody interested in the genre as much as we were when we first heard some of these, the Van Halens and the Aerosmiths of the world come out.
Yeah. Well, and not fair to mention Indonesia because their president is a diehard Lamb of God fan. I don't know if you know that. He wore that at his inauguration.
In Indonesia?
Yeah, the president of Indonesia is like seen wearing like a Lamb of God shirt at like at his inauguration.
That's awesome. That's crazy.
Yeah. But Mark,
Great.
thank you so much for your time. Everybody, we are here with Mark Tremonti. Be sure to check out Marching Through Time out now. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Awesome.